It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Good morning. Welcome to Travel and Cruise Industry News Podcast on this Monday, September 26, 2022, coming to you from Central Virginia area and Bedford County, right outside of Lynchburg. Today's stories, we've got the Hurricane Ian to hit Jamaica, Grand Cayman, and Western Cuba today. Holland America's Volendam sails. Former celebrity Zenith to be scrapped, and the Sapphire Princess returns to service. These stories and a lot more here at 11 o'clock this morning. Today, by the way, folks, is National Pancake Day. So, I eat pancakes on occasions. I don't eat pancakes very often, but when I do, I enjoy them. So it's a good day for pancakes. Also, today is Rosh Hashanah. So all of my Jewish friends, Happy New Year. I'm never sure what I should say on Jewish holidays, whether you say happy or I don't know. Anyway, you guys know what I mean. Have a nice holiday today. If you're listening via the podcast, always welcome. You can access the podcast via my blog, which is accessadventure.net, or wherever you get your podcasts from, like TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, any of them. Just search for Travel and Cruise Industry News, and up pops the fat travel guy. And as always, if you'd like to jump over to the video feed, there's a link in the description of the podcast. So you can go over and check out any pictures that I might be sharing from some of my adventures or other members of Chillie's Cruises family, like I'm going to do right now. My buddies Sue and Barry, over the weekend, I haven't done a show with all this since Friday, so we got some catching up to do. But Sue and Barry were in Ibiza, Spain. Did a little shopping there. And that would be, they've stayed until well into the evening hours. And that would be Barry. That's a pretty good picture of him in front of the Valiant Lady. And then they went into Barcelona and got on Wonder of the Seas and sailed on Wonder of the Seas, which Sue says the artwork on this ship is phenomenal. So that just jumped out and grabbed her. Of course, she liked the Mustang as well. And there's the flamingos. So got to take the picture with the flamingos. Nice suite that they have on Wonder. And that's up on the upper decks in the pool area. I'm not sure what deck it is on Wonder, probably 14, 15, 16, somewhere up in there. And then they went into, of course, that's the Flow Rider, which Barry will do the Flow Rider. I have pictures of that from Symphony when I was with them. Then they went into Mallorca on Sunday. A couple shots from Mallorca. And they did a lot of walking. I guess they didn't have an excursion, at least that I gathered from what I've seen so far. But they did a lot of walking. Now, keep in mind, folks, these are people that never take the elevators on a cruise ship. They walk the stairs to get their steps in every day. So they can do a lot of walking, a lot more. I have trouble keeping up with them on my scooter. But they did stop at a bar, so I have a feeling they walked themselves out because neither one of them are much. I mean, they'll have an adult beverage, but they're not drinkers, not anywhere near like I am. As a matter of fact, most days, because they wouldn't come close to using up their, Diamond Plus drinks for the day. Half the time they buy me drinks out of their uh, limit for the day. But anyway, they're not big drinkers. So for them to stop at a bar, I have a feeling they did a lot of walking. So they're on Wonder of the Seas now for several weeks. I can't remember their exact schedule. I think they do a week on Wonder and then the transatlantic on Wonder, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll be following Barry and Sue along through all of that. Maybe I'll try to grab them and interview them sometime. That would be fun too. Okay. Rochelle, I was wrong. She's not nowhere near ready to go home. Yesterday they were in Munich, and this is the Glockenspiel. And the day before they were in Oberammergau for the Passion Play, which we've done a show on Oberammergau before. But it's just, lovely up there in the mountains of Germany. Cindy and the girls, meanwhile, on the Norwegian Epic, they also were in Mallorca the day before Sue and Barry were there. Only they did a beach day and went to Anima Beach on Palma de Mallorca. And, with Cindy, there's going to be some adult beverages involved with her, not just when she's walking, at any time. So, looking so much forward to actually sailing with Cindy in less than a month now, or no, a couple days, a month and a couple days, about a month from now. But that's again in Mallorca, doing a little shopping. Now, an interesting story about Mallorca, the triangular building there, the next building down to that, which is now a more modern building, used to be the Plaza Hotel, which was built in the same architectural style as that triangular building. And that was my favorite place to stay when I was in Barcelona. And one morning I walked into the restaurant for breakfast and the place was packed. There wasn't a single table. And a gentleman was sitting at a table by himself and said, "Would you like to join me for breakfast, sir?" And I said, "Well, sure." It was Ed Asner, the actor. So I had breakfast with Ed Asner in the Plaza Hotel there in Barcelona, and that would have been back in, wow, I don't even remember what year that would have been, 70, maybe early 80s. Can't remember when I was in Barcelona that time. I've been to Barcelona several times. But anyway, I had breakfast with Ed Asner. And obviously the old plaza has been torn down and something new and modern put up in its place. And Cindy and the girls went to Hard Rock Cafe, and I promise you they did not order iced tea. Guaranteed. Not iced tea, like sweet tea that we call it here in this country. They might have had iced teas. That wouldn't have been surprised me. That's that drink with 95 shots of something or another in it. So, Cindy and the girls have a good time. Now, This is our buddy Lizzie. Lizzie got on the Virtuoso. She's already posted a couple of her dailies. Day 1 and day 2 have been posted. So if you have not seen them, there's no way I can steal them. Please go over to Lizzie's site, Travel with Lizzie Lou, and check them out because they are wonderful. I believe this is the cruise she's on. Got a group of that she's with, and she's got several guys that have not cruised before. So this is going to be interesting. Her first day, she was pretty well worn out and went to the spa and did the thermal suite thingy with some champagne, and that was fine. And then, of course, she posts all sorts of things over there on her channel, but especially the dailies are well worth going to check out on Travels with Lizzie Lou. Now, Hot Air Tom, I have not heard from, and I have been trying to reach him. I have no idea what's going on with them. I did have a couple pictures that he sent over, and they didn't load. Okay, so I don't have his pictures loaded, but it was a dinner that he and Cindy were having on the Prima. So I have not heard anything from Hot Air Tom as to what's going on. I know they had one call in Scotland that was canceled. They're supposed to go into Reykjavik tomorrow. Gaston is pretty much going to be gone by today, but it still might be some rough seas out in that part of the world. I don't know. But I haven't heard anything from Hot Air Tom over the weekend. So hopefully by tomorrow I will have heard something from him. I would love to do a little interview with him to see what's going on. I know he got kicked out of his suite because somebody that was on the first inaugural media couple days had the suite that he was supposed to be in. It was a big screw up, but hey, we need to find out what's going on with Hot Air Tom. So that isn't, hopefully maybe he'll be in the chat room by the time I get to that today. All right, I'll be back with weather news. That's the main thing, and a couple other stories here after a word from one of our network sponsors. All right, of course, the lead story is the weather situation again. Gaston is going to be gone before the day's over with today. There is a system out in the center part of the Atlantic, which we're going to have to keep our eyes on. It is, they're talking 50% chance of further formation in the next couple days and 60% over the next 5 days. So we're clearly going to have to watch that. But overnight last night, Tropical Storm Ian became Hurricane Ian and it started rapid intensification. It is going to wreak havoc today with Grand Cayman, Jamaica, Western Cuba, probably even some over on the Yucatan Peninsula. We're not entirely sure of the path yet as to how much of Cuba it's going to cross over, if it crosses over at all. It has started the turn, but the turn has not been completed yet, so we don't have an absolute perfect path yet. We should know that later on today. The most likely target once it reaches the U.S., and this is going to be a major hurricane, folks. It's going to go to Category 4, probably. Maybe definitely a 3, but probably a 4. And then we're just going to have to follow it and see. The most likely target right now is the Tampa area for landfall, but it's too early to tell. But folks, by all means, if you're in Florida, you got to stay on top of this. Watch it closely. All right, Ian becomes a hurricane. Additional rapid strengthening is expected today. Significant wind and storm surge impacts to western Cuba, Grand Cayman, and Jamaica. There's hurricane watches and warnings all the way from there to north of Tampa Bay. So if you have if you're anywhere in between the spaces, keep on top of your local weather for the exact situation with warnings and watches. Interest in central Cuba, the remainder of the Florida Keys, and the Florida Peninsula should monitor the progress of Ian. Additional watches and warnings will be issued later today as the storm moves further along toward the west coast of Florida. The center of Hurricane Ian was located about 60 miles southwest of Grand Cayman, about somewhere in the vicinity of 280 miles southeast of the western tip of Cuba. Ian is moving toward the northwest at 14 miles an hour. A turn toward the north-northwest is expected today, followed by a northward motion tomorrow with a slightly slower forward speed. A turn toward the north-northeast is forecast by tomorrow night or early Wednesday. The center of Ian is expected to pass near or west of the Cayman Islands today and near or over western Cuba tonight and early tomorrow. Ian will then emerge over the southeastern Gulf of Mexico on Tuesday and pass west of the Florida Keys, most likely late Tuesday, and approach the west coast of Florida on Wednesday. Maximum sustained winds are somewhere between 75 and 90 miles per hour currently, with higher gusts, of course, and rapid strengthening is expected during the next day or so. Ian should become a major hurricane by tonight. The latest minimum pressure was 983 millibars. Storm surge, the Florida West Coast, including Tampa Bay, could be anywhere from 2 to 8 feet. 9 to 14 feet above normal tide levels along the coast of western Cuba tonight and tomorrow. 2 to 4 feet above normal tide levels in the Caymans tonight and by tonight. Wind, tropical storm, and hurricane conditions are expected on Grand Cayman today. Hurricane conditions are expected within the warning area in Cuba tonight, and tropical storm conditions expected by later today. The wind is going to continue on up through and including most of Florida. So even if you're not in the cone of uncertainty, you need to be aware of this and on and up into the southeastern part of the United States. Rainfall, Ian is expected to produce up to 8 inches of rain in the Caymans, up to 16 inches in western Cuba, up to 6 inches in the Florida Keys, up to 15 inches in central west Florida, the remainder of the Florida Peninsula up to 8 inches. Heavy rainfall is expected to affect North Florida, eastern portions of the Florida Panhandle, and portions of the southeast and mid-Atlantic regions by Friday and Saturday. You also need to be aware of the possibility of some tornadoes today and tomorrow. And of course, the swells from the surf are going to cause rip currents through all of these beach areas. So, folks, it's going to be nasty for several days. The thing that's going to hurt us the most now is what it's going to do to the cruise industry. Because you got to keep a couple things in mind, folks. Now, all of the Western itineraries are affected. Clearly, they can't sail anywhere near this thing. But all the Eastern ports are not open yet. Some of the Bahama ports are open. I do know that Puerto Plata is taking some ships coming in the Dominican Republic. I don't know about other ports there. I wouldn't think San Juan is open yet. I don't know about either St. Thomas or Tortola. So I'm not sure where the ships are going to be able to go to get away from this, other than I do know that first and foremost, they're going to keep the passengers safe and stay out of the harm's way of this hurricane. So if you're on any cruises booked from Florida, anywhere in Florida this week, across to New Orleans or Galveston or Mobile, count on everything changing. Please stay in touch with your travel agent or the cruise lines to stay on top of things, because they can change minute by minute over the next couple days, probably this next week. Be nice by next week if things could get back to normal, but who knows? So, all right. The Breakaway, Norwegian Breakaway, by now many of you have already heard about this, but they notified guests on the 14-night sailing departing November 6th that regular maintenance will require the ship to reduce speed, and as a result, 2 ports of call have been dropped. The ship was originally scheduled to have 7 ports of call, but guests have now been notified that Puerto Plata and Cozumel have been canceled, with no substitute ports arranged. Norwegian is offering guests onboard credit, while the exact amounts will vary depending on the staterooms booked and how many guests are in each stateroom. It's going to be roughly $150 per person. So they're not given any specifics as to why they are reducing speed. That normally is a propulsion issue. And obviously, since they're going to continue on, at least at this point, this is something they think can be fixed on the fly. We'll see. I'll worry about that. All right, the Volendam, 2.5 years after the cruise industry pause, the Volendam returned to cruising this weekend in Trieste, that's Venice, Italy. The ship embarked guests for a 14-day Holy Land and Ancient Kingdoms Explorer itinerary. To commemorate the occasion, Holland American Line held a ribbon-cutting ceremony in the terminal to open embarkation, attended by the ship's captain and senior officers. Flag-waving fanfare from team members lined up to greet guests as they boarded. Why is they making such a big deal out of this? Volendam has spent the past 6 months in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, housing Ukrainian families that kept the Volendam from sailing its normal itineraries. It also kept the Holland America line from being able to say all of our ships are sailing once again. The Volendam is sailing now. Holland America has all its ships at sea. Congratulations to Holland America. All right. The former Celebrity Cruises and wait a minute. Let me back up here. Let me back up here. That was the wrong picture. All right. This is the picture for this story. Not that one. What am I doing? I am screwing everything up here. Oh, I see. The picture for the next story is missing. I don't know what happened to it. It's gone. Okay. So I showed you the Pullman tour picture while I was talking about the Volendam. The Volendam picture's missing. That's what's missing. Anyway. All right, so we're back to the Pullman tour picture, which is the former celebrity Zenith. Used to be for the celebrity cruises and Pullman tour cruises. The Zenith has arrived at the shipbreaking yard in Alang, India. The 30-year-old cruise ship, which is currently anchored off the coast of Alang, will be broken up for scrap metal in the coming days. Zenith was built in 1992 by the Meyer shipyard in Papenburg, Germany. The ship follows her sister Horizon, which arrived at the shipbreaking yard a little over 3 weeks ago, also to be scrapped. Both ships sailed for celebrity cruises and the Spanish cruise line Pullman Tour, and several other stops along the way. In the early 2000s, Celebrity Zenith spent the season sailing from New York City to Bermuda. In 2003, the vessel started cruising from Jackport Cruise Terminal in Jacksonville, Florida. Celebrity Zenith would become the first large cruise ship to a home port in Jacksonville, opening the northeastern Florida world to the world of cruising. It sailed from the first coast from 2003 until 2005. That slot was eventually taken by Carnival Cruise Lines. Celebrity Zenith was transferred over to the sister company Pullman Tour in 2007, where she would remain for 12 years. And since then, it's been a bumpy ride for her. She's been with several companies that went under. Of course, Pullman Tour also went under. And she ended up with a company over in Hong Kong or Singapore, I think it was. And they went belly up. So the ship has been scrapped. All right. Resuming service after 2.5 years, the Sapphire Princess welcomed guests back this weekend. Sailing from the World Cruise Center in Los Angeles, the Princess Cruises vessel is kicking off a series of 4 to 15-night cruises to Mexico, Hawaii, and California coast. For the first post-pandemic cruise, the Sapphire is sailing to the Baja Peninsula and the Sea of Cortez. The 10-night cruise features visits to La Paz, Loreto, Puerto Vallarta, and Cabo, where the ship is set to anchor for the entire night. So, despite my screw-ups, folks, that's the end of the news for today. Let's jump over and see who's fussing at me in the chat room. Carol's with us. Hi, Carol. Mark the Shark is here. Hello, beautiful people. Sonny's with us down in Mississippi. Michael Gale. Good morning, Michael. Good to see you again. Mike Cowser is with us from over in England. Hi, Mike. Nikki's with us from Jacksonville. Just talked about you. The Mask Collector. Oh, well, thanks for sharing that Ed Asner story. I've heard great things about this gentleman. He was a very nice man. I was very very interested in spending a little time with him. He had just finished a movie in Russia and was on a bit of a holiday. He loved Barcelona, as I did too. Delta Pack says, what a weirdo. I don't know if she's referring to me or not. Don't care. How's that? So, is that the end of the chat room? can't tell if I have fallen by the wayside here. Somebody drop a comment if I'm still on the air, because I can't tell from here. Yeah, it looks like I am. So somebody stick a comment in there, please. Yes, Mike. Okay. Yep, the end. Okay, Mike. All right, that's going to wrap me up for today, folks. So thanks for being with me. As always, if you're new to this channel, welcome aboard. We do this 5 days a week. And then when anything special happens, I will come live or via video. Please feel free to use the thumbs up. We appreciate that. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. And the bell notification will tell you when I go live or when a new video is up. So that would help the channel out a lot. That's going to wrap it up for today, folks. I'll see everybody back here, same time, same place, tomorrow morning for Tuesday Travel and Cruise Industry News podcast. For now, this is the old fat travel guy. Later, y'all.
I regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. So if you like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, Chillie chats, and travel and cruise industry news, just hit the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, hit the bell notification so you'll be notified when a new video is up or we go live. This video was produced by Chillie's Cruises.